The door that opened only inward. On the necessity of return. In the back of a man's mind there was a door. He had not known it was there for many years. He had lived, like most men, in the front rooms of his mind, the rooms with windows, the rooms with chairs, the rooms where he received his guests and conducted his work and put on his face for the day. In his 43rd year, walking through the rooms of his mind one evening, he came on a corridor he had not noticed before. The corridor was narrow. It led toward the back. At the end of it, in the dim light, was a door. He approached the door. The door had no handle on the side facing him. He pushed on it. It did not move outward. It did, however, give a little. When he pushed, it seemed to open inward away from him, into a space he could not see. He hesitated. He went back to the front rooms of his mind. He sat at his usual desk. He did his usual work. He had dinner with his wife. He went to bed. He dreamed that night of the door. He dreamed of it the next night, and the night after. By the 7th night, he was no longer able to stay in the front rooms of his mind in the evenings. The corridor pulled him. The door pulled him. He walked one evening after dinner to the corridor, and he pushed the door, and the door opened, and he stepped through. On the other side was a room he had never imagined. It was vast. It had no walls he could see, only the suggestion of walls in the distance, where the light failed. The floor was a dark, polished stone. The ceiling, if there was one, was lost in the dimness above. The room was full of figures, not many, perhaps a dozen standing or sitting at irregular intervals, each one alone, each one absorbed in some small task or simply waiting. He walked among them. He spoke to one or two. They answered him in low voices, in words he understood at the time but could not, when he tried, remember later. They were, he came to understand, the figures of his deep mind. They had been here in this room for a long time. They had been waiting for him to come through. He stayed for what felt like a few hours. When he tried to leave, he could not find the door. The door, when he turned back to look for it, had become indistinguishable from the rest of the dark wall. He searched along the wall for a long time. He could not find it. He grew afraid. The figures of the deep mind looked up at him with patient eyes. They did not seem afraid. They had, after all, been here a long time. He sat down on the floor. He sat for a long time. He understood, eventually, that the door had only ever opened inward. That was its nature. It could not be opened in the other direction. The door was, in some sense, a one-way passage. He had walked through. He could not, by the same door, walk back. He would have to find another way. He stood up. He began to walk along the walls slowly, looking for a different door, a different opening, a different way back. He walked for what felt like days. He did not find any other door. The wall was unbroken. He sat down again. He sat for what felt like weeks. In the very deep place where he was now sitting, alone, with the figures of his deep mind around him, he began slowly to remember a smell. It was the smell of his mother's kitchen, in his childhood, in the early mornings, when she had baked bread. He had not, in 40 years, smelled it. He had forgotten it entirely. But it came back to him now, in the deep room, in the dimness, fully, the smell of yeast, of butter, of warmth, of his small body sitting at the kitchen table in his nightshirt, waiting for the bread. He held the smell. The smell, in some way he could not have explained, became a doorway. It was not a door in the wall. It was not a door in the floor. It was a doorway in himself, a small opening between the smell and the room, and he walked through the smell, and he was back in his own bed in his own house, with his wife asleep beside him in the early morning, smelling faintly the bread he had not eaten in 40 years. He sat up. He understood then that the technique was not the going in. The technique was the coming back. The door that had opened only inward could not have been opened from inside. It could only have been replaced by the man inside with a different doorway, a doorway made of something he had carried with him from the front rooms of his mind. The smell of his mother's bread had been that doorway. It might have been something else. It might have been the sound of his daughter's laugh, or the feel of his wife's hand, or the taste of a particular wine he had drunk at a wedding, anything specific, anything embodied, anything that belonged unmistakably to the surface of his life. He had been carrying all along the materials for coming back. He had only needed to be in the deep place long enough to remember to use them. He went, in the years after, back through the door many times. He always remembered to bring a doorway home. He came back smelling, often, of bread. The door at the back of your mind opens only. Inward you will go through, you will not find it again. The way back is not a door, the way back is something specific you carried from the surface of your life, a smell, a sound, a taste, a touch. Carry it. Before you go, the technique is not the going in. The technique is the coming back.